Dr. Hana wiped the sweat from her forehead as she checked the sensor array outside her research bunker. The twin suns of Velthari Prime beat down on her protective suit, making the afternoon feel like standing inside an oven. She had been on this planet for 3 months now, studying the most feared creatures in the known galaxy from what she hoped was a safe distance. The Velketh were monsters, or so everyone said, 12 feet tall with scales like black glass and claws that could slice through steel. Every species in the Galactic Unity Coalition had horror stories about them. Ships that landed on Velthari Prime never returned. Survey teams that tried to make contact were found torn apart. The official classification was clear: apex predator, extreme danger, no contact authorized. But Hana had watched them for weeks now through her cameras and drones. She had seen something nobody else seemed to notice. The Velketh hunted in coordinated packs. They shared food with injured members. They played. They touched each other gently with those terrible claws, grooming and caring for one another. They reminded her of wolves back on Earth before humanity had learned to see past the fangs. Her supervisor had called her crazy when she suggested the Velketh might be intelligent, might be social, might be more than killing machines. But Hana knew what she saw. She just needed more data, more observations, more proof. The sensor started beeping an alert. Hana's heart jumped into her throat. Something large was approaching. She grabbed her scanner and looked at the readings. Multiple heat signatures, big ones. They were close, too close. She should have been paying attention instead of daydreaming. Hana turned toward her bunker door but froze. 3 Velketh stood between her and safety. Her breath caught in her chest. This was it. This was how she died. Alone on a death world, torn apart by the galaxy's most perfect predators. But something was wrong. These Velketh were small. Well, not small exactly. Each one was still the size of an earth tiger, with scales that shimmered in the sunlight like oil on water. Their claws were sharp but somehow looked less terrifying, still growing into their adult size. Cubs. These were Velketh cubs. The 3 youngsters circled her slowly, making soft, chittering sounds. Their heads tilted as they studied her with bright, intelligent eyes. One of them reached out with a clawed hand and gently poked her suit, then jumped back when the material crinkled. The other 2 made sounds that almost seemed like laughter. Hana stood perfectly still. Her training said to run, to fight, to do something, but her instincts, the ones that had helped her work with dangerous animals back on Earth, told her to wait. These cubs were curious, not aggressive. They were playing, not hunting. The boldest cub, one with especially bright scales on its chest, moved closer. It sniffed her helmet, its warm breath fogging the glass. Then it made a sound, a soft chirping trill that rose in pitch at the end. A question, maybe, or a greeting. "Hello?" Hana whispered, knowing the cub couldn't understand. "You're beautiful, aren't you?" The cub tilted its head again and its eyes seemed to brighten. The other 2 gained confidence and moved closer, sniffing her arms and legs. Their scales were warm against her suit. One of them started purring, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through her bones. Hana felt herself relax slightly. This was incredible. This was what she had hoped to find. Proof that the Velketh were more than monsters. These cubs showed curiosity and playfulness. They showed emotion. She took a small step toward her bunker. The cubs followed, staying close. Another step. They seemed to think this was a game, bouncing along beside her like oversized puppies. She was going to make it. She was going to get inside, lock the door, and record everything she had just experienced. Then the exhaustion hit her like a physical blow. Hana had been awake for 3 days straight, monitoring a Velketh pack's hunting patterns. She had been living on coffee and energy bars, too excited by her research to sleep. Her body had been running on adrenaline and determination. But now, with the immediate danger past, everything caught up to her at once. Her legs wobbled. The world tilted sideways. She reached out to steady herself against what she thought was a rock formation near her bunker entrance. Her vision blurred at the edges, dark spots dancing in front of her eyes. "No, not now," she mumbled. But her body wasn't listening anymore. Hana collapsed against the warm stone, her suit's emergency systems beeping warnings she couldn't focus on. The last thing she felt before darkness took her was something warm and solid pressing against her side. Then another weight on her legs. The cubs were gathering around her, their purring growing louder. She tried to move, tried to stay conscious, but sleep pulled her down into its depths. The cubs' warmth surrounded her like a living blanket. Somewhere in the back of her fading mind, a thought appeared. This was either the safest or most dangerous place she had ever fallen asleep. The twin suns continued their journey across the alien sky. The sensor array kept recording. Inside the bunker, communication systems blinked with incoming messages from the coalition, from her supervisor, from the rescue team that was supposedly still days away. But outside, Dr. Hana slept, and 3 Velketh cubs discovered that the strange soft-skinned alien made an excellent sleeping surface. They piled on top of her one by one, their combined weight pressing her firmly into the ground. The boldest cub, the one with bright scales, claimed the spot directly on her chest. The other 2 arranged themselves across her legs and stomach. They had never seen anything like her before. She smelled strange and interesting. She was warm and comfortable. And most importantly, she hadn't tried to hurt them or run away screaming like the other aliens who sometimes visited their world. As far as the cubs were concerned, they had found a new friend. And friends were for keeping close, especially during nap time. The purring intensified as all 3 cubs settled in for a long, comfortable sleep on top of their new favorite alien. Hana woke up slowly, her mind climbing out of the deepest sleep she had experienced in weeks. Something felt wrong. She tried to move her arms, but they wouldn't budge. She tried to sit up, but her body stayed flat against the ground. Panic shot through her nervous system like electricity. Her eyes opened and focused on the alien sky above her. The twin suns had moved significantly. She'd been asleep for hours.
How many hours?
Her suit's display showed it was late afternoon. She had collapsed just after noon. 4 hours. She had been unconscious for 4 hours in the middle of a death world. Then she felt the weight on top of her. The 3 Velketh cubs had made themselves comfortable. The boldest one, the cub with bright chest scales, lay directly on her torso like she was a mattress. Its head rested on her shoulder, and she could feel its slow, steady breathing. Another cub sprawled across her legs, its tail wrapped around her ankle. The third had somehow wedged itself between her arm and her side, purring contentedly. Each cub weighed at least 300 pounds. Together, they formed an immovable pile of scales, claws, and muscle that pinned her completely to the ground. "Okay," Hana said quietly, trying not to panic. "This is fine. This is totally fine. It was not fine." She tried to wiggle her right arm free, moving slowly and carefully. The cub on her chest immediately opened one eye and looked at her. It made a questioning chirp, then shifted its weight more firmly onto her arm. The other 2 cubs, disturbed by her movement, adjusted their positions as well, somehow managing to press down even harder. "Please," Hana whispered. "I need to move." The cubs interpreted this as playtime. The one on her chest started kneading her suit with its claws, the way a cat might knead a blanket. The purring intensified. They seemed absolutely delighted that their new sleeping friend was finally awake. Hana turned her head carefully and saw her communicator, lying in the dirt about 2 feet away. It must have fallen off her belt when she collapsed. 2 feet might as well have been 2 miles. She couldn't reach it. She couldn't move at all. Her suit's heads-up display was still working, though. Warning messages scrolled across her vision. Low power. Temperature regulation struggling. And most concerning, incoming transmissions from the Galactic Unity Coalition. She managed to activate the message system with a voice command. The first transmission made her heart sink. "All stations, this is Coalition Command. Rescue operation for Dr. Hana authorized. Captain Taiyang departing with emergency response team. Estimated arrival at Velthari Prime in 8 hours. Prepare for possible hostile contact. Death World protocols in effect, 8 hours. The rescue team was still 8 hours away. The next message was worse. It was a galactic news broadcast that her ship's AI had flagged for her attention. Breaking news. Human researcher Dr. Hana, stationed on the notorious death world Velthari Prime, has failed to check in for the past 6 hours. Coalition officials fear the worst. The Velketh, known for their extreme aggression and perfect hunting skills, have killed every previous research team sent to study them. Captain Taiyang, a decorated coalition officer, has volunteered to lead the rescue mission, though experts give him little hope of finding Dr. Hana alive. "I am alive," Hana said to nobody. "I'm just being used as a bed by 3 giant predator babies." The cub on her chest made a happy sound and nuzzled against her helmet. Its scales were surprisingly smooth and warm. She could feel the steady rhythm of its heartbeat through her suit. This was insane. The most feared predators in the galaxy were cuddling with her. They weren't trying to eat her. They weren't being aggressive. They were just three youngsters who had found a comfortable spot for a nap and decided to share it with the weird alien they had met. Hana's scientific mind started working despite the situation. These cubs were clearly juveniles, probably only a few months old based on their size. They showed no fear of her, which meant they either hadn't learned to be cautious of other species yet or they simply didn't see her as a threat. The latter seemed more likely. To a Velketh cub that would grow to be 12 feet tall and could hunt prey 3 times its size, a 5-foot-tall human probably looked about as threatening as a rabbit. The cubs were also clearly comfortable with physical contact. They pressed against each other as well as against her, seeking warmth and security. Pack behavior, social bonding. Everything she had theorized about Velketh society was being proven right, even if the proof was currently crushing her ribs. Another message came through. This one was from Captain Taiyang directly. "Dr. Hana, if you can hear this, we are coming for you. Hold on. Don't do anything that might provoke the Velketh. We will extract you safely." Hana almost laughed. Don't provoke them. She was literally buried under a pile of them, and they seemed determined to keep her exactly where she was. She tried one more time to move, attempting to slide out from under the cubs. The one on her legs made a sound that was almost like a whine, a sound of protest. It grabbed her leg gently with its claws, not breaking her suit but making it clear she wasn't going anywhere. "You're just like Earth puppies," Hana muttered. Big, scaly, incredibly heavy puppies. The twin suns moved lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and red. Hana's suit struggled to keep her temperature regulated under all that warm, living weight. The cubs showed no signs of waking up or moving. They were perfectly content to use her as furniture for the foreseeable future. Then Hana heard something that made her blood run cold. Heavy footsteps. Much heavier than the cubs. Something large was approaching, and each footstep made the ground tremble slightly. The cubs heard it too. Their ears perked up and they started making excited chirping sounds. But they didn't move off of Hana. If anything, they pressed closer to her, as if showing off their new friend to whoever was coming. Through the dust and heat shimmer, Hana saw a shape approaching. It was massive, easily 12 feet tall with scales that gleamed like polished obsidian in the fading sunlight. An adult Velketh, and based on the way the cubs were reacting, based on the protective yet gentle way this creature was moving, Hana realized exactly who was coming. It was their mother. Hana's heart hammered in her chest. This was it. This was really how she would die. Crushed by cubs and then torn apart by their mother for daring to get too close to them. The adult Velketh emerged fully from the heat shimmer, and Hana got her first clear look at a fully grown member of the species. It was magnificent and absolutely terrifying in equal measure. The adult Velketh stood before Hana like a living nightmare made of muscle and shadow. Its scales caught the fading sunlight, creating patterns of deep purple and black across its massive body. Claws the length of kitchen knives flexed slowly as it approached. This was a creature built for hunting, built for killing, built to be the absolute ruler of its world. Hana couldn't move, couldn't run, couldn't even breathe properly under the weight of the 3 cubs still piled on top of her. She was completely helpless. The adult moved closer, each step deliberate and careful, its eyes bright and intelligent, fixed on Hana with an intensity that made her feel like prey being evaluated. The creature's head lowered, bringing those terrible jaws within a few feet of Hana's face. Then it did something Hana didn't expect. It sniffed her. The Velketh's breath was hot and smelled like the meat it had eaten for lunch. Its nose, covered in small scales, moved along Hana's helmet down her arm, checking her carefully. The examination was thorough but oddly gentle. No aggression. No immediate violence. Just careful, cautious investigation. The cubs chirped excitedly at their mother, making a series of sounds that Hana's translator couldn't quite process. They weren't moving off of Hana, though. If anything, the boldest cub puffed up its chest scales proudly, as if showing off its favorite new toy. The mother Velketh pulled back slightly and tilted her head. Hana recognized that gesture. She had seen it in wolves, in dogs, in social predators trying to understand something new. It was curiosity, not hostility. Then the mother did something that made Hana's heart leap with hope. She made a low rumbling sound, almost like a chuckle, and gently touched one of the cubs with her massive claw. The cub chirped back happily but refused to move. "You think this is funny?" Hana whispered. Your children are crushing me. The mother Velketh's eyes seemed to brighten at the sound of Hana's voice. She made another rumbling sound, this one more complex. Hana's translator, which had been mostly useless with the Velketh language, finally caught a few fragments. The word it displayed was keeper, a name. The mother had a name, keeper. Or maybe it meant guardian or protector. The translation was rough, but it was communication. Keeper reached down and carefully, surprisingly gently, lifted one of the cubs off of Hana's legs. The cub protested with a whining sound, but allowed itself to be moved. Then Keeper lifted the second cub off of Hana's arm. Hana could finally breathe a bit easier. She tried to sit up, but the third cub, the bold one with bright chest scales, absolutely refused to be moved. It wrapped its arms around Hana's torso and made a sound that clearly meant mine. Keeper rumbled again, and this time Hana was certain it was laughter. The massive predator found her child's attachment to the strange alien amusing rather than concerning. Hana slowly moved her now free arm toward her communicator. Her muscles screamed in protest after being pinned for so long. Her fingers brushed the device, pulled it closer, and finally grabbed it. She activated it with shaking hands. Emergency transmission to Captain Taeyang, she said quickly. This is Dr. Hana. I am alive. I am in contact with adult Velketh. Do not, I repeat, do not approach with weapons drawn. They are not hostile. Confirming, not hostile. She sent the message and prayed it would reach the rescue team in time. The last thing she needed was Taeyang's security team landing with guns blazing and ruining the most important first contact moment in galactic history. Keeper watched. Hana used the communicator with obvious interest. Her eyes tracked the device, the lights on it, the sounds it made. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the growing darkness. Wait, Hana called out. But Keeper was already gone. The two cubs that had been moved immediately scrambled back onto Hana. Within seconds, she was once again pinned under a pile of warm, purring alien children. The one that had never left her chest made a satisfied sound and settled in more comfortably. Of course, Hana muttered. Why would anything be easy? Minutes passed. The stars started appearing in the alien sky, bright and unfamiliar. Hana's suit systems beeped warnings about the dropping temperature. Night on Velthari Prime could be dangerously cold, and her suit was running low on power. Then Keeper returned, and she wasn't alone. She carried something in her jaws, something large and recently killed, a creature that looked like a cross between a deer and a lizard, its body still warm. Keeper dropped it near Hana with a heavy thud, then used her claws to tear off a chunk of the meat. She placed it carefully near Hana's head, then stepped back expectantly. Hana stared at the offering. Her translator processed Keeper's body language and displayed a simple message. Gift. Pack share. Oh my God. Hana breathed. You're feeding me. You think I'm part of your pack? Keeper made an approving rumble and began tearing more meat from the carcass, this time for her cubs. The three youngsters finally abandoned Hana to scramble toward their mother and dinner. Hana could move again, but she stayed exactly where she was, watching the scene before her with wonder. The cubs ate messily, making happy sounds as they tore into the meal. Keeper watched them with obvious affection, occasionally grooming one with her tongue or adjusting their position with a gentle push of her snout. It was a family dinner, warm and loving despite the violence of the meal itself. Hana's communicator buzzed. A message from Captain Taeyang appeared on her screen. Dr. Hana, we received your message. Approaching Velthari Prime now. Please provide location for safe landing. Glad you're alive. What do you mean they're not hostile? Hana looked at Keeper, who was now watching her again with those bright, intelligent eyes. She looked at the three cubs now covered in blood and meat scraps, still making happy purring sounds. She looked at the pile of food that had been deliberately placed near her as a gift. She typed her response carefully. Captain, I'm at my research station coordinates. Land at least 100 meters away. Come alone and unarmed. I know how this sounds, but trust me. The Velketh aren't monsters. They're people. They have families, names, and they've adopted me into their pack. I'm sleeping with predator cubs on a death world. And I think I just made first contact with a civilization the galaxy has feared for centuries. She hit send and waited. In the growing darkness, Keeper settled down near her cubs, creating a protective circle around them. One massive claw gestured toward the space next to her, then pointed at Hana, an invitation. Hana slowly, carefully got to her feet. Her legs wobbled after being pinned for so long. She walked toward the Velketh family, her heart pounding, knowing she was either about to make history or make a fatal mistake. Keeper watched her approach, then made a soft sound. The cubs looked up from their meal and chirped excitedly. The bold one scrambled over and pressed against Hana's legs, leaving bloody paw prints on her suit. Hana sat down next to Keeper, close enough to feel the heat radiating from the massive creature's body. Above them, an alien sky filled with stars. In the distance, lights appeared as a ship entered orbit. The rescue team was arriving and everything was about to change. Captain Taiyang read Dr. Hana's message 3 times, certain he had misunderstood something. His crew stood around him on the bridge, waiting for orders. Every single one of them looked worried. Landing on Velthari Prime was considered a death sentence by most species in the galaxy. "She wants me to come alone and unarmed," Taiyang said slowly, "to meet with the Velketh." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Mira, shook her head immediately. "Captain, with respect, that's insane. Every report we have says the Velketh kill anything that moves. We should extract Dr. Hana with a stun assault, grab her fast, and leave." "She said they're not hostile," Taiyang replied, studying the message again. "She's been on that planet for months, sir. Maybe the stress got to her. Maybe she's not thinking clearly." Taiyang looked at the planet below them, a world of reds and browns and vast empty spaces. Somewhere down there, a human woman was sitting with the galaxy's most feared predators, claiming they had adopted her. It sounded crazy. It sounded impossible. But Hana was human, and humans had a reputation for doing impossible things. "We're going to trust her," Taiyang decided. "Prepare a shuttle. I'm going down alone." The bridge erupted in protests. Every crew member from 7 different species thought he had lost his mind. Mira put her hand on his arm. "Sir, please reconsider. You don't have to prove anything. Let me take a team down with full protective gear." She said, "unarmed and alone." Taiyang repeated, "I'm going to honor that request. If Dr. Hana is right, if the Velketh really aren't hostile, then this could change everything. First contact with a species we've written off as monsters." He saw the doubt in Mira's eyes, but also the trust. She had served with him for 5 years. She knew he didn't make reckless decisions. "At least take a personal shield," she offered. Taiyang considered it, then shook his head. Hana said unarmed. "A shield counts as a weapon in most cultures. I'm going with nothing but a communicator and faith in a fellow human's judgment." 20 minutes later, Taiyang's shuttle touched down, on Velthari Prime's surface, exactly 100 meters from Hana's research station. The planet's air was breathable for humans, hot and dry with a slight metallic taste. Twin moons lit the landscape in silver light. He could see Hana in the distance, sitting next to something large. Several smaller shapes moved around her. His heart rate increased. Those were Velketh, multiple Velketh. One was enormous, easily 12 feet tall. The galactic news networks had hacked into his shuttle's camera system. Billions of beings across dozens of worlds were watching this moment live. They expected to see Captain Taiyang torn apart by monsters. Some had probably placed bets on how long he would last. Taiyang started walking toward Hana, forcing his breathing to stay calm and steady. He had trained for this. He had made first contact with hostile species before. But this felt different. This felt like standing at the edge of history. Hana stood up and waved at him, which would have been comforting except for the massive creature that rose up beside her. The adult Velketh was even more terrifying up close. Its scales seemed to absorb light and its claws gleamed like polished metal in the moonlight. Then something small and fast charged at him. Taiyang's training almost made him dodge, but he forced himself to stand still. The charging shape was one of the cubs, the one with bright chest scales. It skidded to a stop in front of him, chirping excitedly and sniffing his boots. "That's Bright Claw," Hana called out. "He's friendly, very friendly, probably too friendly." The cub looked up at Taiyang with bright, curious eyes. It reached out, one clawed hand and gently poked his leg, then made a happy sound. The gesture was so familiar, so much like a puppy investigating a new person, that Taiyang felt himself relax slightly. He slowly knelt down, keeping his movements smooth and non-threatening. He extended his hand, palm down, the way he had learned to greet earth dogs. Brightclaw sniffed his hand, then rubbed against it like a cat, purring loudly. "Good," Hana said, and Taiyang heard relief in her voice. "Keeper is watching you. Just stay calm." Taiyang looked up at the adult Velketh. Keeper was indeed watching him. Her head tilted in that universal gesture of curiosity. She made a low rumbling sound, and Taiyang's translator device buzzed, trying to process the meaning. The translation that appeared on his wrist display was rough. "Soft skin pack friend?" "Yes," Taiyang said clearly, hoping Keeper could understand tone, even if not words. "Pack friend. Hana's pack." Keeper's eyes seemed to brighten. She rumbled again, this time a sound that seemed approving. Then she did something that made Taiyang's breath catch. She walked toward him, each step measured and careful, and lowered her massive head to sniff him just as she had sniffed Hana. Taiyang stayed perfectly still as the most feared predator in the galaxy examined him. He could feel Keeper's warm breath through his shirt. He could see every scale, every sharp tooth, every powerful muscle. One wrong move from her and he would be dead in seconds. Keeper pulled back and made another rumbling sound. The translator struggled with it, finally displaying, "Same smell. Same pack type. Good." "She recognizes that we're both human," Hana explained, walking closer with the other two cubs following her like ducklings. "I think she's figured out we're a pack species too. She's been treating me like a cub watcher, someone who helps care for the young while the mother hunts." Taiyang stood slowly, and Keeper allowed it. Brightclaw was now playing with his bootlaces, making happy sounds. The scene was surreal, impossible, and absolutely fascinating. "Captain," Hana continued, her voice excited, "my translator has been learning their language. The Velketh aren't mindless killers. They have names, social structures, communication. They've been watching human visitors for weeks. They find us interesting because we don't immediately attack them like other species do." "Other species come with weapons," Taiyang said, understanding. "We trigger their defensive responses." "Exactly. But humans we approach with curiosity. We see predators and think how interesting instead of kill it before it kills us. To the Velketh, that makes us feel safe, familiar. We're predators who recognize other predators." Keeper made a gesture with her claw, pointing toward the distance. Through the darkness, Taiyang could see what looked like cave entrances in a nearby cliff face. "She wants us to follow," Hana said. "She's inviting us to her den." Taiyang activated his communicator. "Lieutenant Mira, are you getting all this?" "Yes, sir." "The whole galaxy is watching." "Captain, you can't seriously be considering going into a Velketh den." "I am," Taiyang replied. "We're making history here. Contact the Coalition. Tell them we need proper first contact protocols prepared. The Velketh aren't monsters. They're people." He looked at Hana, who was grinning despite the dried blood on her suit from where the cubs had cuddled her. "Ready to change the galaxy's mind about an entire species?" "I've been ready for months," Hana answered. Together, with Keeper leading the way and 3 playful cubs bouncing around them, 2 humans walked toward the Velketh den. Above them, satellites recorded every moment. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in shocked silence as the humans did what no other species had dared to do. They walked willingly into the home of monsters, because humans had learned long ago that monsters were usually just misunderstood creatures, waiting for someone brave enough to see past the teeth and claws. The Velketh den was not what Taiyang expected. He had imagined a dark cave full of bones and the smell of death. Instead, he walked into a vast network of tunnels carved into the cliff face, lit by bioluminescent plants that grew along the walls. The air was warm and surprisingly clean, with a mineral smell like hot stone after rain. Keeper led them deeper into the den system, and with each turn, Taiyang saw more Velketh. Adults watched them pass with curious eyes. Cubs peeked out from behind their parents, chirping softly. There were dozens of them, maybe more, living in a complex community that clearly had structure and purpose. Hana grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with excitement. "Do you see this? Look at the walls." Taiyang looked where she pointed. The cave walls weren't just carved by nature. They had been decorated. Images covered the stone, made with some kind of colored clay or paint. Hunting scenes. Family groups. What looked like stories being told in pictures. They have art, Hana whispered. Culture, history. A Velketh even larger than Keeper emerged from a central chamber. This one's scales were darker, almost pure black with scars crossing its chest and arms. Old battle wounds healed long ago. The creature moved with the careful dignity of age and authority. Keeper made a series of rumbling sounds, and the translator on Taeyang's wrist worked overtime to process the meaning. The words that appeared were, Elder Sharp Thought, Leader Speaker. The Elder Velketh studied the two humans with eyes that held obvious intelligence. When it spoke, the sounds were more measured, more deliberate than Keeper's casual rumbles. The translator displayed, Soft skins in our home, strange, good strange. Taeyang took a breath and stepped forward, keeping his body language open and non-threatening. Good strange, he said clearly. We come as friends, pack friends. We wish to speak, to learn, to share. Sharp Thought tilted his head, processing. Then he made a sound that might have been approval. He gestured with a massive claw toward the central chamber, an invitation. Inside, more Velketh gathered. Taeyang counted at least 20 adults, plus numerous cubs. They formed a loose circle, and he realized this was a council of some kind. A meeting place. These creatures had government, social organization, everything that defined a civilization. Lieutenant Mira's voice came through his communicator, sounding stunned. Captain, Coalition Command is watching this live. They're demanding a full report. Half of them think you're both insane. The other half is calling this the most important first contact in a century. Tell them to prepare proper diplomatic protocols, Taeyang replied. We're going to need translators, cultural experts, and an official embassy. This is real first contact. Sharp Thought began speaking, and this time the translator had enough data to process most of the meaning. What came through was broken but understandable. Long time we watch the sky travelers. Many come with fire weapons, loud death machines. They see us and choose killing first. We defend, we survive. Sky travelers leave dead. They tell others we are death bringers. Hana stepped forward. We understand now. The other species saw your size, your claws, your strength. They were afraid. They attacked first and you defended yourselves. But humans, we know predators. We lived with them on our world. We learned to understand them. Soft skin's different, Sharp Thought agreed. You come with watching eyes, not death weapons. You sit with cubs. You share warmth. You smell like pack hunters like us. Understand us, Taeyang felt the weight of the moment. Centuries of misunderstanding, of fear and violence were being unraveled, because humans had done what they always did. They saw a dangerous creature and decided to understand it rather than destroy it. We would like to help, Taeyang said carefully. We can speak to the other species. Tell them the truth about your people. Help them understand. Would you want to join the Galactic Unity Coalition? To be part of the larger community? Sharp Thought made a sound that the translator interpreted as consideration. He turned to the other Velketh in the chamber, and a discussion began. Multiple voices rumbling in their complex language, discussing, debating. It went on for several minutes. Finally, Sharp Thought turned back to the humans. We wish peace. We wish trade. We wish learning. But we fear the fire weapons. We fear the killing first species. Then let humans be your bridge, Hana said. We'll stand between you and them. We'll teach them what we've learned, that the Velketh are people, not monsters. Brightclaw, who had been remarkably quiet during the serious discussion, suddenly scrambled over to Hana and climbed up her leg, making demanding chirping sounds. He wanted attention and he wanted it now. The other two cubs joined him, piling onto Hana until she staggered under their weight. Not again, Hana laughed, trying to stay upright. You're going to squish me. The tension in the chamber broke. Several adult Velketh made sounds that could only be laughter. Even Sharp Thought's eyes brightened with amusement. Keeper walked over and gently pulled two of the cubs off Hana, rumbling what was clearly a scolding. The cubs made apologetic sounds but clearly weren't sorry at all. Sharp Thought gestured toward Brightclaw, who was still clinging to Hana's torso like a backpack. This cub chooses you. Pack bond strong. In our way, you are now cub mother. Honored bond. Hana looked down at Brightclaw, who chirped happily up at her. I'm a mother to a Velketh cub. Seems that way, Taeyang said, grinning. Congratulations on your adoption. The communicator buzzed again. Mira's voice was excited now. Captain, Coalition Command wants to establish formal contact. They're sending a full diplomatic team. This is really happening. First contact with the Velketh brokered by humans. Over the next several hours, Taiyang and Hana worked with Sharp Thought and the other elders to establish basic protocols. They shared information about the Coalition, about human culture, about the wider galaxy. The Velketh shared their own history, their society, their technology. It turned out the Velketh had advanced hunting sensors and pack coordination systems that could revolutionize Coalition military tactics. They had medical knowledge about treating injuries that other species had never considered. They had centuries of ecological data from their harsh world. They weren't primitives. They were a sophisticated civilization that had been isolated by fear and misunderstanding. 6 months later, Dr. Hana stood before the Galactic Unity Coalition Council, presenting her findings. Beside her, taking up a significant portion of the stage, lay Brightclaw. He was much larger now, almost the size of a small spacecraft, but he still followed Hana everywhere and still occasionally tried to sleep on top of her. The Velketh situation teaches us something important, Hana said to the assembled representatives of 40 species. We see predators differently than most species. Humans evolved alongside dangerous creatures. We learned to understand them, to work with them, even to love them. That's why we could make contact when others failed. She gestured to Brightclaw, who raised his head proudly. The Velketh saw weapons and aggression, so they responded with defense and violence. But when they saw curiosity and patience, they responded with the same. They're not monsters. They never were. They're just people who needed someone brave enough to sit still while their cubs took a nap. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species were still uncomfortable with the Velketh. Others saw the opportunity for alliance and trade. But nobody could deny the results. In 6 months, human mediators had transformed the galaxy's relationship with an entire world. Captain Taiyang watched from the audience, proud of what they had accomplished. He was now leading the First Contact Revision Initiative, a program to re-examine other species the galaxy had written off as too dangerous. There were dozens of worlds out there, maybe hundreds, full of intelligent beings that nobody had bothered to understand, and humans, crazy, brave, curious humans, were going to find them all. After the presentation, Hana walked through the Coalition gardens with Brightclaw pacing beside her. Other delegates gave them a wide berth, still nervous around the massive predator. But children from various species watched with fascination, and some of the braver ones asked to pet Brightclaw. He was always gentle with them, having learned from Hana how to interact with small, fragile creatures. "You know what I keep thinking about?" Hana said to Brightclaw, who made a questioning chirp. "That day I collapsed outside my bunker. I thought I was going to die. I thought you and your siblings would hurt me." Brightclaw made a sound that might have been amusement. "But you just wanted someone warm to sleep on. And that one moment of trust, that one decision to not be afraid, changed everything. For me, for your people, for the galaxy." She looked up at the artificial sky of the Coalition station, thinking about all the worlds out there full of misunderstood creatures. The galaxy doesn't need to fear the dark. It needs to learn what humans figured out a long time ago. Sometimes the scariest monsters just need someone to see past the teeth and claws. Sometimes they just need someone to let them take a nap on top of you, even when you can't move and you're pretty sure you're being crushed to death. Brightclaw rumbled with laughter and gently bumped his massive head against her shoulder, careful not to knock her over. In the distance, more human ships arrived at the station, bringing diplomats and researchers and brave explorers ready to find more lost civilizations. The age of humans as predator whisperers had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.